This is the Wise Guy Radio Show, a podcast dedicated to educating and inspiring through conversations with today's top talents in the world of glass. Hey, what's happening? Welcome to a Glass Blowers Companion, episode number 12. This is your host, Jason Michael. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Hope you are doing well out there during these crazy times, as we are all experiencing some, uncharted waters, whatever that term is. I'm trying to think of it. But, this is, it's been a crazy time. I didn't want to talk about it too much, but, it is what it is. I hope you are definitely taking advantage of being home, and hopefully you're able to get into your studios and get some art made and what have yous. And if you're not, hopefully you can at least do something creative at that right now. And now's a good time to learn something new. I've been learning how to use Adobe PowerPoint Pro, learning how to do edits and videos and all kind of fun stuff. So it's just taking advantage of this time. Officially have been out of work now for 2 weeks. I believe it's been a little bit over 2 weeks since Disney's closed. And it's given me a chance to get into the studio. The first week, I went fucking completely apeshit in the studio. And I put probably more time in that week than I had done all in the last year. It was really nice. And then I took a couple of days off and then just kind of slowly get my body acclimated again. I'm used to working 10-hour days as it is, but not in the heat like I have right now in Florida. I've been pretty spoiled working inside the mouse house in the air conditioning. So I just get myself reacclimated to this whole situation. But it has been nice. I've been working on some projects on the side, getting some video work done, and some content for you all to listen to, which I'm excited about. Today's episode is featuring Eli Mazet. It's a new episode for you. Eli recently published a book called The American Shot Glass and the Machine, which basically skims the surface and just kind of touches some points on the history of the glass machine that changed the industry of glass forever on an international sense. It's really fascinating. The book itself, it's about almost 200 pages long. It's 197 pages. It's just chock full of amazing photography done by Winholm and Josh, amongst a collaboration of amazing glass artists, all basically have their pictures in here of shot glasses that they've made. It's a really fun book, but also not only is it fun to look at, it's also very inspirational. Give you some ideas. Josh has been on, this is his third time on the show, and in the past we've talked about Pipetown, USA, was his last time he was on, and the history of the pipe scene up in Eugene, Oregon. And then the first time he was on the American Shot Glass and the history of the shot glass itself. And just know the shot glass is one of those things that isn't being created by a lot of people out there in terms of an art piece. It's one of the most highly collected items in the world, and as far as being handmade, you don't really see a lot of artists out there. So I definitely recommend, as a glass artist, that you add the shot glass to your repertoire of what you make, especially getting it down to the amount of liquid that an actual shot glass will hold. I believe a shot glass holds 1.5 fluid ounces. Something, again, as a canvas that you can use, that's something that you can take advantage of and put your voice into it. Also, this is a little bit different episode. I didn't do my normal traditional introduction. Him and I had about a 40-minute conversation before we actually started the main meat and potatoes of this episode, talking about the book. Just talking about some our personal lives, actually, what's been going on with this whole epidemic right now that we're going through, and how him and I have been getting through it, and just some things to think about in terms of how you could continue to make money and earn some cashola in your pocket to pay your bills while we are all stuck at home. Smoke shops are closing. A lot of places like that are putting orders on hold. So it's important to take advantage of staying in touch with your online sources in sense of those that follow you through your social media feeds. Take full advantage of it. Do live streams. Offer deals. Him and I get into some ideas and stuff that him and I are doing on our own. And other than that, just make sure if you guys need to order some glass right now, like I mentioned in the ads, that Mountain Glass has some big sales going on right now. Definitely check them out, mountainglass.com. They're a sponsor of the podcast here. Definitely big ups to them for helping support the show. As it's just I'm trying to get my feet on the ground and keep things rolling while I'm out of work. So until then, I'm going to let you guys go. I'm exhausted mentally, I guess, in a sense, mental fatigue. Don't forget, if you have not yet subscribed to this podcast on whatever podcast app you have, definitely subscribe to it. Leave me a review. It definitely helps the show with the ratings and gets this exposed through the algorithms or whatever the lords of the podcast are. My wife and I also have a podcast. I'm not sure if you know or not, but it's called FYEAH Disney. It's a adults-only Disney podcast. It's a lot of fun. Her and I covered the current history and events going on within Disney, as well as Disney history, and we both have a ton of fun with that. We've been growing the brand little by little and expanding things. So check that out if you want something else to listen to outside of this podcast. It's called, again, FYEAH Disney. And you can find me on Instagram at jmichaelglass, the letter J, Michael Glass, and also the podcast is Glass Blowers Companion, all one word. And then you can find our FYEAH Disney on Instagram at FYEAH_Disney. And also, if you're interested in seeing any of my pipes and my functional work that I make, it's under My Functionals, at My Functionals on Instagram. It's a private page that I have, but if you're interested in seeing what I'm doing out there, that is where I'm posting it. All right, I'm out of here. Enjoy this episode with Eli Mazet. Again, you can find him on Instagram. I'll have all the links in the show notes. Eli Mazet. Again, his book is called The American Shot Glass and the Machine. We'll talk to you next time. Love you so much. Take it easy.
Right.
So,
Yeah, totally.
we'll see how it goes. But also,
I mean,
with the economy right now, I know a lot of shops are still buying and stuff, so it's just kind of weird.
yeah, I know. I think some smoke shops are open. A lot of my stores and even some head shops and stuff canceled their orders. For the first time, you might have seen, I've been blowing it up online, selling stuff
Yeah.
like crazy. And you know what? Dude, let's get real. We all knew that you could make a lot of money on the internet. We've been saying it for years and years and years and years and years. We've sold it and done these other avenues. Some of us haven't gone fully committed online. And now that the real deal is to make that transition and switch it just out of nowhere right to the internet and hoping that you can make that same amount of money is a scary fucking thing.
Yeah.
So I've been doing good. No shit, man. So I made this transition and I think that people are ready now. Of course, they can't, like me, we're actually saving money because we're not going out to eat. We're not going to the movies. We're not doing all this stuff that usually kids volleyball games and all this stuff, traveling. So yeah, we're actually saving money on that aspect, but it's been really difficult to, and the thing is I'm working more hours all the way until the night right now why this transition happens because you can't stop.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, it's interesting, man, because I know years and years ago, a buddy of mine and I were developing like an online, like an Etsy big cartel marketplace for pipe makers. And it was going to be along with my this build your own wise guy thing I was doing, but then I started thinking about just the legalities and the way things are in the country. And I was like, well, I don't want to be liable, if some underage kid fucking buys a pipe and then I'm fucked, kind of thing, like the old Operation Pipe Dreams thing. But now that the tobacco laws have changed, which I want to talk about with you on this, we talk about it now, but just in general, with the way tobacco laws have changed, and now with 21 and up, it's like across the board, whether you're buying a pipe for tobacco or buying it for cannabis, you have to be 21 years old. And I think it's for the pipe industry, it's a huge benefit and one less liability that we have to deal with. I still think people should somehow be able to get qualification to get like a driver's license or something of that nature, I know there's some kind of app you can get where you can scan your driver's license with the QR on the back and it tells you if you're 21 or not. Unless, of course, you're having your buddy do it for you. Like, fake IDs back in the day. Bullshit, Hey, buddy, go buy me a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, there's probably an app online maybe even. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you know. So yeah, it's gonna
But
be
no, you're
interesting, man.
totally right. You're totally right.
I'm really curious because like the smoke shops can't get pissed if the pipe maker wants to sell their glass online because what the fuck are we supposed to do? I'm not gonna wait around for you to open it back
Right.
up again. Like I've been out of the pipe game for 6-7 years now. So like all my accounts I haven't lost them, but I just haven't like contacted them really. So I just think about all the things like I've been working on this online course teaching sculptural classes, and I've had students that I'm actually teaching right now in person. Well, not right now, but I have before this thing started. I'm doing
Yeah.
Sunday classes out of my studio, so I get each student it's $100 for a 3-hour class. It's a real basic thing. It's given me a chance to run through teaching again because I haven't done it in forever. And all these things I've been wanting to do, like I said, for the last couple of years, I can now do. Like I'm been working on learning how to use Adobe PowerPoint for doing video edits and stuff, so I can just get this shit fucking done.
Yeah.
So
Dude, hell yeah, man. That is so cool. Yeah, that's it. And that's the thing I'm doing too. I'm putting myself through school in editing and videography and stuff like that. I mean, as much as I can get. And so the times right now with everybody staying home, when I'm at home, if I'm not selling glass or I'm always doing something in glass, but yeah, glass media. If I can, I mean, I've got to I'm pretty much just super basic, but, I've been able to produce a few, I mean, I don't know if I told you this, but I did a commercial for DFO, and then I did a commercial for the place over in Ireland, which
nice.
is the Game of Thrones or the Flame of Thrones. But either way, yeah, I mean, I'm just a fucking glassblower, dude. That like you said, I think it was you. Too bad we couldn't all go back to school to do videography,
Yeah,
and go to college together. It would be so fun. But yeah, I need to get back on it a little harder because I really enjoy it. But yeah, just like you, trying to find the time
yeah, exactly. That's pretty good
to
shit.
get that going.
Yeah, man. So I was going through your book. I mean, I've gone through it several times since I've had it, even this morning, and I had some shot glasses made, and they all fucking cracked on me because I was using experimental color from a buddy of mine that made. And
Okay.
I wish I'd have finished them and like sent them off to you to get them in this book.
Yeah. Oh man, totally. And you were on the list. Yeah, for sure.
So the
Um,
next one for sure.
the next one, and you know what? Like I said, I've got a couple things coming up, dude. I have somebody who's willing to put up 10 G's. It's the same guy who put up the money for Pipetown, USA. And we'll go over this in the interview. Dude, they want to do the documentary on the glass machine on my book.
Fuck yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be cool. It's going to be super cool. And we're trying to really gear it up towards like the History Channel or something like that because it's the very first documentary on the glass machine.
Yeah, dude.
There's only been one done in house by the Owens and Libby factory in like the 1960s or 50s.
Huh.
They did one, but yeah, no one knows, the whole story on it. So I think it's going to be big, dude.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Well, it's I don't remember who did it. I don't know if it was a Discovery Channel, but they did like a whole series on like specific inventions and how they've impacted the world. And there was one they did on glass, and it started off
Okay.
from the very beginnings of it, and then to like the Italians and the clarity aspect. And the main reason they wanted clarity was for optical use for glasses. And then that turned
Okay.
into the telescope, which then turned into the microscope, which then turned into scientific use. And it was like this
Yeah.
whole thing of like one thing to the other, and just the expansion of glass and just fucking rad, and that's how our daily lives are done by it. And so I started doing. I'd put up a little post about like what are your top 10 current favorite colors in glass, and I had a bunch of people telling me what they liked, and so I got my compiled list. But then that opened up a complete wormhole, can of worms, whatever you want to call it, into deep research into the beginnings of borosilicate color, going back to the very beginnings of when they started mixing color and figuring out with oxides and shit. But then I started even digging deeper into just to the beginnings of color in general. And it's fucking fascinating just how far back this shit goes. So I was like, well, instead of doing a podcast episode, I was going to do a YouTube series on it. But then
Okay.
but then I started thinking about like what you're talking about, like make this thing like start as small in a sense, in the production sense, but really like have a big long term thing about doing a full productive series, like like a docu series on just the invention of glass, in every aspect of it. It could branch off into so many different areas.
Oh my God.
You're talking about just with the glass machine alone. I mean, I talk to guests all the time in Disney that ask me about different companies in Blanco or Blanco, whatever the fuck their name is, and
Yeah, yeah.
up there,
Blanco.
and how Ohio was like the mega center for fucking glass in the world, which is fucking
Yeah.
weird, you know?
Yeah, and that's because the machine,
Yeah,
that's where Owens went, and they had, I mean, dude, they had an endless budget. In fact, because of this pandemic, I started to really go into deep thought on that machine even fucking more. And I realized if you could make a machine in 1905 that could make 15,000 glass objects every fucking hour, and then today it makes 5 million glass objects every hour, think about it. We could use the glass industry to support all the other industries, dude. Maybe you couldn't support them all, but if you had a crew of guys that was making 5 million glass objects every hour, you could support the world off of that machine. No one would ever have to work again. We're talking about every glass object in the world. Now, back in the day, of course, before plastic, it was a lot more essential. But today, there's still enough glass objects where it would be a huge economical impact if the world owned that machine instead of some guys that make all the money off that machine, that provide labor to ship, to do everything it takes to get those machines. But I
yeah,
really do believe that a machine like that, there's actually a documentary that I watched. It's been years, but it was on, that they could have automated the world in the 1950s, and no one would ever have to work again. Now, people would still work because you would have to have things set in place. You would have to still have service, and stuff like that, different things, but and all kinds of stuff. You would still have to work, but it wouldn't be like what we're doing now.
yeah, it's amazing.
So it's crazy.
Yeah, it totally is. Yeah, man. So that being said, with the podcast too, like, so this last quarter, I just did a whole series on getting your financial house in order, just helping people get their mindset about thinking like a CEO and getting their, and which timing wise it was perfect because I can't, I don't even know like how many glass blowers right now that were not prepared for this whole thing to go down, that aren't going to be
Oh
able to
fuck.
survive. Like
Oh no way.
they're, so like, episode 1 was creating a budget, episode 2 was figuring out your baseline costs, and then episode 3 was on, set an emergency fund for yourself. And if you go through all 3 processes, you can really do your calculations and then get into daily habits and like start changing your mindset like a CEO, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And my brother and I were talking about it, and it's like, all these motherfuckers that want to get this stimulus check, they're not going to get the stimulus check because, for one, they're not paying taxes, and two, they're not paying themselves like an employee. So they want to,
Dude,
so they're fucked.
you're right on the money. Me and my buddy were just talking about the same thing yesterday, dude. A lot of these guys haven't paid their taxes, so they're not getting anything.
Yeah.
They can't go and get a $25,000 loan to bail themselves out with no interest, or maybe you won't have to pay it back.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we were talking about that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But the way that I see it, in a sense, I'm looking at a light switch right now, actually, by the door, and you can turn that light switch off, and then you can turn it back on, and you don't literally, like, a carpenter goes to work, and he has inches. If he doesn't have a ruler, does he not have inches? I mean, it's the same kind of thing as this economy thing that we live in. Not to get off track, but once everything goes back to normal, the light switch will go back on.
Mm-hmm.
People will still have a shop. They'll have their torch. They'll have tanks. Hopefully, they'll still be living in a place and won't be kicked out and homeless, because I think that most of the regulations that they've got right now, you can't just kick people out right now.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
So hopefully the light switch will just go back on.
Yeah, that's my
and
thought too.
we're hoping that that's going to be the scenario.
Yeah, I think it's going to be get like business back to normal kind of bullshit, but at the same time, I think this whole time period's been a good, like, just like a reset for everybody, just to kind of like appreciate what they had. A lot of us just got so used to our shit, we just took it for granted.
Or we were, this, like let's say me too. I'm always in the biggest rush in the world because I've got to get stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I'm like, dude, I'm going to take it easy. Like the whole world's off. I might as well just like take it. And I mean, I can go out and work anytime I want, but now I'm like, dude, I'm still going to instead of working till 4, maybe and maybe I'll get off at 3 or 2, or maybe I'll even just take a full day off this week,
Yeah, exactly.
because like you said, reset. The kids are at home. I've got to be there. It gets you back connected. Everybody's not out socializing, so they're staying at home, and the families have been connected. And it's like we're living back in the 1930s as far as like staying at home and being a family together.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, man. It's good shit. That's why I was saying like yesterday I was feeling so overwhelmed, and I'm like, wait a second. My wife kept saying the same thing. She's like, dude, you've been like busting your ass. You've been learning PowerPoint, writing scripts, and doing all these recordings and shit. Like, chill the fuck out.
Yeah, yeah.
you know. So like today,
Which, dude,
I'm gonna take
it's
a half
great
day.
because a lot of times, like we just said, we don't have the time sometimes if you're blowing glass to really sit down and to sell something on the internet.
Yeah.
I don't even have the fucking time usually. I'm usually making something for somebody. And right now, since they're slow, it's like, dude, another thing that I'll just mention real quick, and I think that you'll really like this. I haven't seen anybody doing it. And because of the times that we're living in, of course, we're recognizing and changing even our business aspects and our business plans because we're like, oh, okay, we could do it this way too. So, what I've been doing that has been going really well, dude, this is so fucking cool. I tell people on my live feed, hey, get on here, go on my page, pick out what you want, text me what you want, pay me. I'll make the bong, the pipe, and the matching shot glass at 8 o'clock in the morning. You can come on and watch your live fucking custom piece.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome.
And you know what? This week I've tore it up with that. I sold, probably 3 sets of a nice little bong and a pipe and a shot glass, and it's just, yeah, it's been fun to have the interaction since we can't socialize everywhere. To have that interaction. I mean, let's get real. We watched Star Wars when we were a kid, Star Trek, and we watched Kurt get on there, talk to somebody on a screen, and we never thought that would actually really be possible.
Yeah, I know, it's funny, right?
Dude, let's do this. Let's Star
Yeah.
Trek this shit. Let's get this. And I know with you being media and all that, I know you're that's just a common sense thing. But when you put it that way, sometimes you think, oh, okay, yeah, this is fucking cool. We should take advantage of this because sometimes you just get so busy you forget or you just
Oh
put it
yeah.
off.
But it's for me, man. Like so, like the first 2 days of my shop, I'm like, yeah, I'm going live. Here's my timing wise. So I went live on Instagram, and then my phone overheated because it was just plugged in and blah blah blah. So it just shut itself off, and I went off, and I was like, I felt more comfortable, and it's not that
Yeah.
I like I don't because I'm used to daily being watched by thousands of people at work. So for me, what people watching me working is not a big deal. But to have
Yeah.
it go off, I don't get that time to really get into my studio and get like my flow state going and focus on shit. So like
Yeah.
for me to live stream right now, it's kind of like almost counterintuitive for me to get my groove back. Like once I get my groove back,
Oh,
then
dude,
I'm gonna start
big
going to
time.
live stream again. But because
Oh, for sure.
normally when I blow glass, I've got thousands of people watching me. So right now it's like it's a time I should be taking advantage of, but I'm also taking advantage of not having people watching me.
Well, the cool thing is, Jason, and me, I'm always doing research. And when I say research, I'm checking all of you out. I'm looking what you guys are all doing. I'd love to watch you on live feed, but I'm watching everybody and seeing what they're doing. I watch live feeds, and it's really more for me a research for my business watching other live feeds. And I'll tell you what, there's not a lot of guys that go on there and literally, provide somewhat of a podcast. Like, let's conversate while I'm blowing glass. Some guys
Yeah.
and gals just sit there and like kind of, this. And so, yeah, like you, me, Lewis Wilson, those kind of guys are really making an impact of having almost like, yeah, it's killer to have your own TV station,
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I do. I talk
and
to people and I just like,
building it.
yeah. And when I'm doing live stream, I can't read my screen necessarily the whole time. Like I've talked to my wife about her coming here to help like read my screen for me to
Yeah.
if anybody's asking questions and shit. because I'm doing
Yeah.
that same thing. I'm just like talking like, hey, this is my torch, and it looks clogged up, but it's 20 years old, and I love this fucking thing. I don't need some GTT or whatever. This Carlisle's done me good. Blah blah. I'm just like rambling on about my shit and what I'm making, and it's fun. So let's get into the book, The American Shot Glass and the Machine by Eli Mazet. It's your second book you put out, and the photography, like everything, is fantastic. And I think what's fun with this book is it's more of a cock tease than anything else because you really just kind of scratch the surface on how deep you can really get into this whole potential controversy of this glass machine.
Yeah.
So,
Oh man,
yeah,
it's cool as hell. And yeah, the American Shot Glass and the Machine is a story about a machine that was made in 1905, and it would create 243 glass objects every minute. And initially it was a bottle machine. So the guy who invented the machine, his name was Michael Owens, and he was an Irishman, and his dad and his brother all worked together for a coal mine initially, and then ended up losing that job. He was coming home and being hurt all the time working in the coal mine, so they ended up moving to, I think, maybe it was Toledo, Ohio, at the time, or New York. It was one of the two, but either way, yeah, he got a job as a glass blower. And before the machine, you had 300 glass houses in America. And so before the machine, it was pretty common for a family to work for a glass house. So you would have three brothers and dad. They would all work at the glass house. And the kids, before the machine, there was a lot of kids working in the glass factory, and they called them blowing dogs.
huh?
And so, yeah, the glass blower, the adult, the man in the team would come over, and he would blow into the molds, and the kids would open. They'd have 5, 6 kids lined up, and the kids would open the molds and close them. And so, yeah, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about this because it's really cool. The guy who invents the machine, Michael Owens, before he invented the machine that was 10,000 parts in 1905, he had 46 patents, and he made the very first semi-automatic light bulb machine. He made the very first semi-automatic tumbler machine, and he's also the guy that created the very first the mold separating paste for glass blowers.
Wild.
So yeah, he has, and that's the thing. I don't go over everything in the book, and that's what I love about me and you talking what we're doing, because I'm going to add a little bit more in than just the book, and I'm going to give some cool information on the book, and I'm not going to hold really anything back, because when I did this book, it wasn't so that I could make a shitload of money. I mean, I blow glass and I love glass. And so I did this book really to get the information out there. And even on this talk, I'm going to pretty much lay it all out on the line. And so, this kind of trying to stick and stay focused here on a topic, the
Right.
machine.
I know
Yeah,
there's so much
because
involved.
yeah, there's so much. I mean, I could go into the history on the guy that made the machine. I could go into all kinds of things, and so yeah, I'll try to stay pretty focused. But yeah, they make the machine, and that's a machine, 10,000 parts in 1905. Every single part on that machine was handmade,
Wild.
and so in the biography, in every piece of any article that I could find, it's kind of weird. They say that he never wrote anything down. He he only wrote things on chalkboards. So it's very,
Hmm.
very mysterious that a machine that was 10,000 parts and everyone was handmade. And you know that they had to, they did have fabricating in house, but I'm sure, and I have the research and I have it all on paper. They used other fabricating shops around them. So I mean, come on, they did write things down. This is a conspiracy, and so the machine would what happened is, after he automated the glass industry, he went to the Ball brothers They went to um, Masons and Heinz, and for the first time, he built them a machine. For the very first time, food preservation was changed in the world in the history of man. You could now package food in glass, making it last way longer than a can.
Yeah.
In a can. And so, and that's what the Ball brothers did. In fact, the Ball brothers were five brothers, and they actually were in the cannery business. And so, when the machine came about, think of this: he went and sold and licensed the machine out. He automated the food process industry so that they could all package food. For the first time, they could fill 15,000 bottles of ketchup an hour. You could transport, it created jobs, but the machine also shut down, rivaling the Egyptians 3,000 years, making more glass than anything in the history of man. And so it actually shut down an industry of glass worldwide. You can now make, it would make every single milk bottle, grape juice bottle, prescription bottle, thermometers, light bulbs, TV tubes, radio tubes, um, all kinds of beakers and test tubes and scientific ware, perfume bottles, so liquor bottles. It made so many things. It closed down the industry of glass around the world.
Yeah, it's amazing. It sucks, but it also helped with moving our country forward in a sense too. With all kind of inventions or
It did.
innovations, I should say.
You know what? And it was and so what did the machine do? It caused America to have the very first multinational corporation. So the machine was America's very first multinational corporation. In fact, they ended up making 17 machines by the 1920s, and it would fuel the economy, and you can imagine anybody who had the machine was an instant millionaire, bazillionaire,
Yeah, I can imagine
because they
so.
could make. Yeah, it's unreal. And so this story's never been told. And so what I did, I went around to different glass blowers, and I got the top glass artists in the world, in the country, in America. Um, Robert Mickelson, Mylan Townsend, Kiva Ford, Mia Shea, Bob Snodgrass. I mean, the list goes on. Hushing Goins. I even got Eric Goldschmidt, who's the head lamp worker at the Corning Museum. And the Corning Museum helped me out with a bunch of information on this book. And Eric actually kind of set the spark, you could say, to get me off on this, this investigation of what was this machine and what did it really do. And so one of the very first licensees of the machine was a man named Edward Booz. And I know that I've told you this before, but yeah,
Hmm.
he was a distiller from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and
Um,
when I read that too, it's like, is that where the term booze comes from? Like,
and that's where the word booze comes from. Now, before the booze bottle, Edward Booz had four guys making this famous bottle. It's iconic in the history of bottle making before the machine. They made log cabin bottles. Four glass blowers would make log cabin bottles, and they would fill them with liquor. Okay, and so when the machine came about, yeah, they started making log cabin bottles and all kinds of stuff. Now they'll tell you, and you can look up the history of the word booze, and there's a bunch of different things that say, oh, they called this booze here and they called this booze there. Well, I'll tell you what, when you make 500,000 booze bottles a day, that information spreads quickly. You now claim the name booze. So,
yeah,
yeah, so the booze bottle, and then going back to kind of getting all the glass blowers, Daniel Piper Benway, Gregory Paul Shire. There's just Dave Strobel, There's so many really good glass blowers in here. Windhome is the photographer that took all the pictures for the book. And what did they do? They made custom shot glasses. The top glass artists in the world made a custom shot glass to support an American glass story.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So it's that it's kind of crazy because you have this really cool, like you said, it's kind of a cock tease. You have this really cool book,
Hmm.
and then with all this great photography, Mente, Greg LaFrance, all these Windstar and Deline Peralta, you have all these awesome shot glasses, and then you have this like killer story. It's almost like Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant enter the ring. You
Hell
have the
yeah.
number one shot glass collection in the world, and Paul Stankard said it might be the number one story that he's ever heard in glass. He's super excited about the book. He says, a guy like Paul Stankard, as me and is, friends with Dale Chihuly.
Hmm.
He's on the top of the crust in the glass industry. He's he's one of the biggest layers on that onion that we peel and talk about glass. And so for him to say it's the number one shot glass collection in the country and that it's also, you know, his favorite story that he's ever heard in glass meant the world to me. And so when I told him about the machine was the America's very first multinational corporation, the machine was built on the oldest glass street in America, and the street and the machine being built on the oldest glass street in America, and to come to find out that that street is now called Wall Street, he was blown away.
Yeah, it's pretty
And
wild.
so, and a lot of people are, and
Yeah.
so the story about this machine um, is a complicated mystery. In fact, the guy who wrote the book on Henry Ford, Edison, and Carnegie, that's what he said. He's the only guy who wrote the book, a biography on Michael Owens, the guy who invented the machine, 100 years later. There's so many different conspiracies about the machine, and I know that me and you talked about maybe even doing kind of a small podcast on it. Um, it's what I guess in all, the story of the American shot glass is a real American story, and I a guy who's blowing glass in his backyard in a shop that a lot of us glass blowers are always dreaming. We're dreaming, we're dreaming, we're dreaming all the time. And it's been a miracle, a manifestation that, coming from Eugene, making glass, that I find this huge, the number one glass conspiracy of all time. This dream that maybe was in my subconscious. I don't know. That's what it feels like sometimes, because it's almost something, if you watch murder mysteries on TV, or if you watch investigations and you watch that stuff, if you watch documentaries where there's conspiracies, and you're one of those people that always kind of, you know, you understood, or you enjoyed the Tesla conspiracy or Edison. I mean, they just came out with Current Wars. It's
Yeah.
a documentary, a movie, Hollywood movie on Tesla and Edison, and Westinghouse. So, anyways, that being said, I think I gave quite a bit of information there away. But yeah, that's what the book's about, and it's just been, and I'm grateful for it, and I want everybody to go and just hit me in the DM on Instagram or Facebook and order this book. I've sold quite a few copies, and it's just been a huge, exciting enjoyment to be able to bring this research and tell everybody about it.
Well, I think what's like on my end, what's fun with it too. Like not only the story itself, but also the inspiration inside the book itself. Because I know, like, in past episodes that you've been on, we talked about how the shot glass is just one item that not many people make anymore, and it seems like this book can help to kind of revamp and re-inspire this kind of this idea, this it'd be like revolutionary in a sense for the industry, for the glass blowers, as just one other thing to add to their tool belt of items to make that are being used on a daily basis, like a wine glass or a pint glass or something of that nature. They're bigger, they're more intricate in a sense, technique wise, for a glass artist. It's like saying going from making a spoon to making a rig. Like the wine glass is the rig and the shot glass is the spoon. But you can make a really nice fucking spoon. You can do all kind of fun details. It functions the same, but it still looks and is unique to the artist. And I think this is a great inspiration just because of the quality of the artists that are in here, and then also the types of shot glasses that are being made. Like they're all functional. They all hold the 1.5 fluid ounces or potentially do, but they're all very, very unique. And it's you going back also to talking about like with the machine and what the machine did. It started to manufacture pint glasses, and the Prohibition era came in and took alcohol away. So these machines went into making the milk bottles and other things like that, and things for the military, you name it. And then that ends, the Prohibition ends, and they start doing shot glasses and they make pint glasses and everything else under the sun. So now we've had this cannabis prohibition forever, and that's slowly, quote unquote, going away, which is allowing the pipe maker to expound upon their pipes and be more upfront with what they're making. But in the background, they can still kind of focus on other things like a shot glass as an artistic outlet, It's just kind of interesting, the coinciding thing. I don't ever see the machine being able to mass produce a pipe per se. I'm sure there's probably ways of doing it with 3D printing and shit nowadays, But
yeah, and that's the thing, and we've talked about this before, but they never made a pipe machine. They've never made a pipe machine. In fact, I talked to the oldest torch company in the country, and where the number one, scientific glass community hangs out in New Jersey. And someone told me that they did make a pipe machine around there. And so because of this, this story, it led us all into these ideas like, eventually when someone does make a pipe machine, if they do, which they will, I would almost guarantee they'll make some kind of form of pipe machine eventually, because it's just like making a beer can or a shot glass in hundreds of billions of dollars, whatever. But you're right. You cannot go back and make anything that's in this book on a machine. And kind of flipping back to the machine and the shot glass here, when 300 glass shops were shut down in the 1920s because they made 17 machines and they started making every single item on the machine, well, that stopped the creative process for 100 years. And so what would happen before the machine? You would go into work, you would work your 12-hour or 20-hour day, whatever they did back in 1905 and in the 1920s. And then at the end of the day, they let you play around and make like a little vase or a little turtle. You weren't making, because every bottle, every single, they made oil lamps. They had all kinds of things they were making in glass as a product line because they didn't have the machine. It was a very different world. And what I'm saying is the creative process has been held back for 100 years. It's guys like Dale Chihuly who are accredited. I mean, he even has a book, and he is accredited by many, that brought glass back in America, the Italian style, that's been around for 3,000 years, really, Egyptians making glass. And if it wasn't for a guy like Dale Chihuly or Bob Snodgrass, and what did they do? They found this kind of niche market making things that the machine didn't make, chandeliers, all kinds of bowls, pipes. And so the really cool thing is that because of the machine, we're now making handmade glass 100 years later, protesting the fact that we had creativity taken away from us for the last 100 years in glass. We're now showcasing a movement in the last 20 years because of the pipe, Bob Snodgrass finding that niche. And now what are we doing? The shot glass has never, ever once, except for unless you were going to cut into it. They did super cool designs where they cut into shot glass in Bohemia and all kinds of different places around the world. They were cutting into glass. Those are the most adorned, cool, creative glass. But no one ever in the history of man, because of the machine, ever took a shot glass and turned it into a painting. And that's what these shot glasses are in the book. They're little paintings of glass. Some of the shot glasses in the book might be up to $5,000 for one shot glass, because it really is a true American story. It's an expression. They're the first in the history of man. And part of the reason is because the machine would just frivolously make shot glasses, bang them out, and people would drink out of them. And they weren't really initially made for any but just function. You drank out of it, slammed it, and threw it in the freaking behind the bar. And so
Yeah.
now, with the story that we know, that's what the book. That's partially why the book was started. Now, we didn't on this episode. We didn't mention my first book, which is the contemporary shot glass that got me to this first book, the American shot glass, which is more about the history of the shot glass and why the movement was started. And that's part of this book, is that people started making really cool shot glasses and giving them earrings and faces and horns and, colors and all these things, because no one had ever taken the shot glass to that next baller level. And that's the world that we live in right now.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and it's the customization aspect of things. But going back to Dale Chihuly, and he's controversial in a lot of the art world. Kind of bringing glass to the forefront of of appreciation in our country, not only by the collectors but by people that are just in the art world in general. But the whole controversy is glass making. Is it a craft or a fine art? And Chihuly, I think, was one of the first at the time to bring glass making to a fine art in a sense. Not just because of what the process of making the stuff, but also then the composition of putting hundreds of pieces together into a form of sculpture or what have you.
Right.
And
Oh, yeah,
the shot
totally.
glass is kind of becoming that. This in this book, the shot glass is like, okay, you have a basic fundamental shape of a cylinder that is collected by millions. I know, like, for my dad, for instance, he has a huge shot glass collection, and whenever I travel or anywhere I go, I gotta get my dad a shot glass because he needs to add one to his collection, you know. So it's
Yeah.
but now you have a canvas that can then be turned into a piece of art, not just something that you may paint on or sandblast or put a stencil on or something like that. It's
Right.
interesting.
Yeah.
So it's the appreciation's there.
Yeah. So and that's the thing, the machine making eventually, today, 5 million shot glasses every hour. Back then, 500,000 a day. The machine, just like when you print baseball cards, it was the machine that made the shot glass highly, highly collectible. And so if it wasn't for the machine, maybe we wouldn't have as many shot glass collectors as we do today. And so the machine gets overpowered, and the artists in the book make a glass for the shot glass collector, making it the king of their collection.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's pretty rad. Yeah, it's definitely it makes for a piece of art that stands out, and not only as a shot glass, but as a standalone piece of art.
Well, yeah, and another thing is too, we might as well just mention this. The shot glass is used for all kinds of things these days. A lot of people will put a little bit of oil, cannabis oil, in the shot glass. They'll heat up a straw, and then they'll dip it in there, and they'll smoke that little bit of oil out of there. Or you might use it for coffee, for an espresso. So
Mm-hmm.
there's all kinds of things. Toothpicks. I mean, I love to have a cool toothpick holder. So, it's used for all kinds of things. One of them is a little juicing thing that they have now too. I can't remember what it's called, but they're doing this little juice thing that's high energy. And so I've had a lot of people in Eugene, a lot of vegans here, a lot
Yeah,
of
like
health.
wheatgrass and stuff like that.
Yeah, wheatgrass.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
yeah,
So yeah, they're doing shots of that. And so yeah, it's getting one of these, a shot glass now. the cool thing is about building a shot glass collection right now is that there's a cool story that comes with it. It's filled in the shot glass, and it just you just keep taking another shot and another shot and another shot of history, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's the cool thing about this book. It has a, like I said, I really want to give a bunch of credit to Windhome Photography. You can look him up at Windhome on Facebook or Instagram. He's just a great guy. He's just awesome at what he does. And if there was a bunch of things and all the artists in the book, there's 80 of them. So I can't, ramble them all off right here. You can go onto my Facebook page or Instagram and find them all. But all the artists who made glass and contributed and helped put this thing together and support this once again true American story. I'm super grateful for. Now the set in this book is destined. Like I said earlier, I own the number one shot glass collection in the world with this book and the last book being combined into one collection. And so this set is really, it's destiny, a museum or a distillery, the number one distillery in the world. That's where I plan to hopefully house this set someday with the story. I think it's the number one trophy for the biggest distillery in the world who wants to share this American story. So that's my goal. My goal on this book is to collaborate with the number one distillery or some of the number one distilleries in the world to help tell this American story. And all of you guys out there, I need your help too. And Jason's helping me right now, and we all helping each other. But we're all Americans, and we're all people. But we live in America, and it's just a super cool story. And that's how things spread. Somebody hears this, and somebody hears that, and then, oh yeah, did you check this out? And you get a call. And so it really is one of those kind of things,
Yeah.
So we're excited to move on and do the documentary on this book, which will be coming. We won't go into that long tangent talk right now, but yeah, there will be a movie made on my book, The American Shot Glass, and it's going to be a really cool ball buster. And once again, this was all for the glass industry. And one thing that I really like about this is that, for all of us that are glass artists, it really does show you that dreams come true and that we are all inventors. If he could make a machine in 1905 that would make 243 glass objects every minute, today the machine makes 5 million. I keep saying this because I want to put it in your head, 5 million every hour. Think of what we could come up with.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think
We
too,
can do this.
I think what's fun too, man, is like as glass artists, if I could speak this out, we are all creatives, and it's so important to have an outlet outside of the glass world. This involves glass, so this is a creative outlet for you. And I think it's just you're an example of someone who is in a creative sense found an outlet, found a spark out there that you just kind of just dove headfirst into. And I'm looking forward to taking this story and really, because like I said, like this book just kind of like really scratches the surface of this story, and I'm looking forward to creating this series with you, really opening
Yeah.
up this story, the controversy behind the machine, and what it did to our country on a negative and a positive sense, and where it's at now in this, in terms of glass, but also breaking this down to just the overall history of glass going in from being handmade, man-made, quality changes to a machine being created by hand by somebody that then puts us where we are now. Like
Well, yeah,
it's
because
crazy.
you know who this is a great story for? This is a great story for everybody who ever worked at Corning. This is a great story for everybody who ever worked at anything to do with Owens, Illinois, Dow Chemical, all these multinational corporations who are linked to the Owens machine. There's a bunch of them. And I'll tell you what, the librarians at Corning, the librarians at the Toledo Museum of Ohio, they didn't know this story. In fact, I think it really takes a person who's passionate about glass, and I can see that. And that's why me and you are teaming up.
Yeah.
Because it takes somebody who's really passionate about glass and being a glass maker. I think somebody who goes out and chisels their glass, dreams away on physical, they have these thoughts in their head and then they go physically make it right on the torch. Well, they get involved in glass history. They want to do, guys like me and you, we want to do the same thing. We want to go chisel away information and get this information to people that was lost, and we want to get it to the people also, that are these younger kids, like my 19-year-old kid, and these young kids growing up. Like, this is a great story for everybody in the industry, and this is really, and that's why I say anybody who's ever been involved, learning at Corning or any kind of scientific glassblower from New Jersey, they love this shit, So
Yeah.
so
Well,
yeah, it's a well-rounded topic.
that was kind of part of my goal with this podcast too, was like just to document the history of our industry, because like glass, the glass world has some history documented somewhat. There's still controversy on the origins of glass just in general, like where did this stuff come from, whether it was the Phoenicians or the Egyptians or whatever. But coming into modern times, the pipe industry has some documentation through your Pipetown USA and with Slinger's Degenerate Art video. So there's some documentation, but an overall historical documentation that dates back a couple hundred years to where we are now isn't there. So it's an honor to have a platform like my podcast to bring artists on, sharing their stories and their journeys and documenting that. And then you and I working together here on some future projects to really hone in on specifics and document the history of this industry. It's it's needed. It's something that will be around hopefully forever for generations to come upon, and then expound upon it, generations from now.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I have to say this while we're here and right in this moment. But imagine if you made a machine in 1905, it would make all those glass objects every minute. Imagine if you took over the whole glass industry in the world. Imagine the secrets that you could hold back in glass for 100 years. Imagine the library that you could build and the information that you would put in there to people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's what happened. And so we're getting information in the biggest libraries. In fact, who built the Toledo Museum Library? It was actually Libby Glass, the guy who financed the machine for $500,000 in 1905.
Huh, interesting.
Him and the board of directors. So they're the ones that made and guess what? They don't know much about the machine there in the museum. It's crazy. The library, I had to tell them about this stuff, and they're blown away. And so glass, the secrets of glass, the science of glass has been owned by the people who made the machine. They had their own, printer, kind of like printing money. And when you work with the people who are printing all the money and the people who are printing glass and they all work together, they own all the science and technology. And now, of course, 100 years later, you can learn anything you want on the internet and know any kind of information that you want. But the science and the things in glass are still held back from us. And that's why, you have technology released to you that's 50 years old sometimes, kind of like GPS was around for 50 years and then Bill Clinton made it available to us. And so there's things that glass do that we couldn't even imagine that's 50 years into the future that they're working on right now.
Yeah.
So you have a CIA. You have a secret society of scientific glassblowers, chemists. They're working with glass, doing things that's 50 years into the future. It's hard for us to fathom it right now, but it's going on right now as we speak. And that's the continuation of an episode like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah,
because that's what I found out about this book. I would talk to scientific glassblowers. Well, of course, you have to have a scientific glassblower to make an atom bomb or a nuclear bomb. Well, some of them didn't want to have anything to do with this story. A few of them did. Once I started going into it, they wanted out. And of course, Kiva Ford, scientific glassblower at Notre Dame, gave me some good information. And there's some of them out there that don't mind talking about some of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever got Kiva Ford on, but
No,
man,
not yet. Him and I have talked about going back and forth about him coming on.
Yeah, because he's the history. He definitely knows some history, that's for sure. And I really would like to see somebody, extract that.
Yeah.
From him.
You have to reach out to him today. I'm gonna write him down right now. Oh. Yeah, absolutely. Thinking about the whole machine thing too, it makes me think about the multinational corporations that were involved in this whole situation. If a lot of it led to, I know like Dow Chemicals and the plastics that were being created that wanted to get hemp illegal because of plastics being made from hemp. But you wonder if like a lot of these had anything to do with the prohibition of cannabis over the years.
Oh, they did. I'm sure they did. Talking to you right now, that just set off a little sensor in my head. Yeah, because if you have the formulation for plastics, because that's what they did, Dow Chemical, Dow Corning. Mm-hmm. My dad worked for Dow Well. Dow Well was an oil company. They were directly connected to Dow Chemical and Dow Corning. Okay, and so you have these multinational corporations working together. In fact, I looked it up. I've done a lot of research just on modern stuff today, and the last that I knew, Black and Decker actually owned. Stanley owned it. The glass industry. I mean, the guys that make that own the machines. It's a construction company. It was Black and Decker, and then Black and Decker sold to Stanley, but they actually owned the glass industry to make all your auto glass, all your windows for construction and homes, and then you've got remember that Pink Panther? Remember the Pink Panther? It was Owens, Illinois, and they provide all the insulation in your homes. Yeah. Well, guess what? They also provide all the tiles that the shingles on your house. They supply every kind of plastic on your car. Dude, they still own the world to this day. In fact, I found out they have like 4,000 different patents on resins and plastics that is theirs. And then they make 1 million products. Imagine, Jason, if you made 1 million products. Okay, you could make 1 million products. And then if you make 1 million products, you got to have 1 million to supply the world of each product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so dude, this is crazy. And guess what? What makes 1 million products? What makes 1 million products and can make 1 million of 1 million products? A machine that makes 5 million fucking objects every hour, dude. They own the world still. Yeah. So yeah, it's this deep ass story, that really, yeah, it all ties in together into the corporate world owning the light bulb. And, I go into the book a little bit about the obsolescence factor. And that's the same thing. That one we could talk for another 20 minutes. It's just the light bulb and making a time limit on it. It's because of a glass blower. It's because of a glass object, a glass, purchase that you would buy a light bulb and it would go out and they would make it a time limit because they had a machine that was making 500,000 light bulbs a day. And if you had a machine that made 500,000 light bulbs a day, you couldn't make them last for 100 years. Why the fuck would you want a machine?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, and that's what they did. They have a light bulb from the 1907. It's outlived 3 webcams. It's been burning for 100 years. I know why that it's actually still burning. I've done the research and I've figured out why it's actually still burning. But either way, it's still burning to this day. And it's a crazy story. And it's actually certified by General Electric as the oldest light bulb ever been burning in a firehouse in Liverpool, California.
Yeah, it's crazy. I saw that in the book. I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah. Super cool. And that's where I'm going. That's where we go next. We go to Liverpool. We go to Toledo, Ohio. We go to Corning. Yeah. And we go to the machine and we get a bunch of footage. And if you've ever seen anybody out there, Pipetown, USA, you could see that I could probably make a pretty good film with my buddies and make a cool film about this also. And that's kind of my next mission. It won't be going on for a couple years. The final product is we're going to take our time on this one, but yeah, definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to collaborate with you guys and bring this history to the forefront for everybody to be educated and inspired by it.
Yeah, well, I just want to thank you again too for having me on, and giving me the opportunity, because I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. I know it's we both get so excited about this shit. It's hard to stay on track with these topics.
Yeah. Well, hey, and that's the cool thing about this modern day is that we're really talking to all kinds of people, and we're educating ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so this conversation to be documented in history on your feed, all this information, man, I could literally, when I get out the phone, maybe cry. That's how much it means to me, to this story. It really is my whole world. And and it's because of glass and because of guys like, you and everybody else. What I found out is that I've been making glass so long, and I love doing it. I would be out there, and all I would want to do is blow glass. And then I would travel to shows, and I would meet people like you and do all. And I started to find out that it was actually the experience that I was having, either on the torch or mostly, like even right now, the experience that we're having together were the reason why I was living my life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally.
So, yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
I
man.
love my life.
It's funny, man. I was, all night last night,
too.
I dreamt about us interviewing, and like throughout my entire dream, it kept getting interrupted by someone coming by to want to smoke a doob, or like my shop was getting moved. Like there's all these things that were happening. So I woke up this morning. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to the shop, make sure everything's fucking set and good, and then of course I come in here and realize I forgot one of my adapters for my plug, but I got it to work, so we're good. That's how stoked I was to get up here this morning and talk to you too.
Dude, right on, man.
Yeah, pumped. So cool, man. Well, hang on. We'll say our goodbyes off the air here.
Okay.
So yeah, so you guys can check this, get this book in your hands for sure. I definitely highly recommend it. You can find Eli Mazet on Instagrams. I'll have all his links in the show notes. And again, this book is called The American Shot Glass and the Machine. And his first book was called The American Shot Glass. And I'll have all the links for all the books. You definitely want to get your hands on this. This book is very inspirational. And again, it just kind of scratches the surface of the story of the glass machine and where it's taken our country and our world in general in glass. So I hope you all enjoyed our conversation. And again, I'll have all the information in the show notes. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Make sure you all are staying safe and washing your hands and following the rules. And this crazy fucking experience.